hungry.
It's time for a good old-fashioned Q&A,
Thirsty.
MMA fans.
Ornery.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Unhappy.
the moment has arrived.
I feel
to
great.
hear from the
I feel
man
great right
himself,
now. So we'll keep
Ariel
this going.
Helwani.
And how about Lewis Gilmore? I mean, this guy, moderator Lewis,
New York City,
is just...
on the nose.
He told me yesterday he didn't want the streak. He's just doing this out of the kindness of his heart, but he had a busy day because of the, the time change. There's a time change right now. In the UK, they changed the clocks. They turned the clocks back. Thank you very much to Mike Heck for that, of course. They turned the clocks back a week before us. We do it on Sunday. They did it last week. So his schedule didn't mesh. And he's like, what can we do? What can we do? And I was like, you know what? Take the week off. It's all good. He's like, no, I'm not going to take the week off. So that's why I sent out the solicitation yesterday to give him enough time to do it. I mean, could you talk about a bigger mensch? It's pretty much Katie Taylor and Lewis Gilmore up there with the great mention of the world that we live in. Let's go, guys. Let's answer some questions. James is first up. There we go. Let me get comfortable here. What is up, Ariel? Ever since it's been announced, I've been wondering, what are you and all the other media guys going to do to promote the upcoming Bellator Rizin card? Oh, boy. We're starting off with this. Let me keep reading here. How much are you going to talk about it? It just feels like it's the media's responsibility to get the word out. Oh, I see what you're doing, James. Just wanted to know what you plan on doing to let everyone know that this event is taking place. Anyways, I'm writing this question while here at work. Got to get back to the Friars. Yes. Thank you, James. Not even giving me a chance to warm up. We're really going, we're going in this direction right off the bat. Okay. Of course, young James is referencing a clip that made the rounds from the very talented Josh Thomson on his podcast. There was this clip that made the rounds where Josh Thomson laid down the gauntlet. He laid down the gauntlet. He challenged the MMA media to promote the upcoming Rizin versus Bellator card that's going down December 31st at the Saitama Super Arena in Japan, which is very exciting. If you may, this was a big topic of discussion. I think last Wednesday, I saw it when we were traveling to Arizona. You may have noticed that I did not touch this one, if only because I wanted nothing to do with it. I couldn't care less. I really couldn't care about anything that Josh Thomson has to say. And that's not because I have some sort of personal grudge against him, but if we're going to try to fight these battles every time someone quote unquote challenges the media, I mean, we're going to be blue in the face. So I just left it because I didn't feel like writing about it, tweeting about it, retweeting it. And then inevitably what would happen is he would talk about how, he's in our heads, and he would post a picture or a video of himself on the beach from 4 years ago, but he would pretend it's now and say that he's got this great life and that, that he's under our skin and all this stuff and make himself feel all that much more important. We've been through all of this already, and it wasn't exactly the most rewarding experience of my life. So I just kind of left it as is. I will say this, if you want my feelings, I feel like this is what James is getting at. If you want my feelings on the clip, I actually feel like he made one critical error in that little diatribe of his. And had he not made that error, I don't think he would have received the heat that he received. Had he swapped the word promote with cover, then I think he would have had, he would have had a fine point. If you listen to what he said, and every time he said promote, and you swapped the word promote for cover, then you could have had, a sensible conversation. All right, hey, MMA media, are you guys going to cover this? Are you going to give it the attention that it deserves? Are you going to do X, Y, and Z? The problem was he said promote. Our job is not to promote anything. Our job is to cover things. And there's a massive difference between promotion and coverage. Now, by virtue of coverage, do you promote things? Yeah, sure. When we talk about UFC 281 next week, we're covering it, but also by covering it, you're shining a light on it, and someone could deem that promotion or view that as promotion. But our job isn't sit here and say, how are we going to promote this card? How are we going to promote that card? How are we going to promote 281 or Fight Night at the Apex? That's not what we do. That's not what the media's job is. So had he said cover instead of promote, would have made all the difference in the world. And if you're going to sit here and say, oh, that's semantics, it's not. Promoters promote, organizations promote, networks promote, media companies cover, media outlets cover, Big difference. Massive difference. Promotions spend money to promote, to market, to get the word out. We spend money to cover, to shine a light. And sometimes those things are positive. Sometimes those things are negative. Sometimes we're talking about Anderson Silva getting knocked down before a fight, which I can assure you probably didn't help that promotion. Sometimes we're talking about, Jake Paul being 5-0. Like there's a huge difference. And if you can't grasp that, I don't know what to tell you, but learn a little bit about what journalism is. Speaking of which, I hate to break the news to Josh, and I hate to break the news to Daniel Cormier, and I hate to break the news to Michael Bisping, and I hate to break the news to Anthony Smith and anyone else who is a former fighter now doing stuff on YouTube, podcasts, whatever it is. You are all part of the MMA media now, whether you like it or not. Now, is your perspective different? Is your experience different? Your background different? Sure, we all come from different spots. But now that you're doing this and you're talking about other fights and you're putting content out there and you want people to watch, you're now part of the MMA media too. So turn that gun on yourself as well. If you don't like what the MMA, if you're doing one of those shows and you're shitting on the MMA media, you're shitting on yourself as well. You're playing yourself as well because you are not in some sort of separate category. It's all the same. And that's why I hate when people would always do that, like the MMA media, this, MMA. No, if you have an issue with someone's coverage, you have an issue with someone's, reporting, writing, whatever, call that person out. Specifically call that person out. Otherwise, this paint everyone with the same brush media is ridiculous. It would be the same like if we're breaking down, an event or a fight, and as opposed to doing that, as opposed to criticizing, let's say, Israel Adesanya for his fight against Jared Cannonier, we're criticizing all strikers, all fighters, all CKB fighters. No, that's not how it works. You have an issue with someone, you have an issue with someone's coverage, reporting, journalism, whatever, call them out. Pick the fight with them, not with everyone. We're not all the same human beings. And what was so, I guess, funny about the timing of that clip was that news came out in the morning, and I already saw a ton of outlets, including ours, report on it, shine a light. I saw people tweeting about it. I saw Nolan King tweet about it, who's one of the best young journalists out there. I saw all the MMA fighting people tweet about it. I even tweeted about it before I even saw about the Josh Thomson clip. I was saying like, wow, this is great. Back to Japan, New Year's Eve. We haven't had this in a while. It's all nonsensical. And of course, what isn't being said in that clip is he works for Bellator. He gets paid by Bellator. He would never challenge, the MMA media to cover a one championship fight or a KSW fight or a PFL card. Of course, you don't need to challenge the MMA media to cover UFC because they're the big dog. And yes, there is a point to be had there where it's like, all right, we all cover the UFC more than Bellator. We all cover the UFC more than PFL. We all cover the UFC more than KSW or ONE. You know why? The UFC product is better than all of them. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but the UFC product is infinitely better than all of them. And now I'm going to get all the freakazoids. The difference is there are no freakazoids for these other promotions, but it's the truth. I'm sorry if this is hurting anyone's feelings. The UFC product is better. Now, the UFC on its best day is better than all of them. If you're going to compare the best Bellator card to what we're getting on Saturday, obviously not. But I'm talking best for best. The UFC product's better. So they don't need to challenge us to, quote unquote, promote or cover a UFC event because they're the top dogs. So if you want this to be some sort of like, reverse psychology where you challenge us and as a result of that, we're going to cover it more. It's not going to work. Guess what? Make the cards better. It's on them. The real challenge here is what is Bellator going to do to get the public to care about this? What is Bellator going to do? What is Showtime going to do to get us to know about who these fighters are and to know about who they're fighting? Because the Bellator fighters are known. The Rizin fighters, they're not known here. I can't even tell you what the card is off the top of my head right now. I know that AJ McKee is on it and Pitbull is on it. Archuleta is on it and Horiguchi's on it. I can't tell you their opponents right now. And I'm like deep in the weeds in this stuff. So the real challenge here is what is Bellator going to do? Not us. Trust me, MMA media is going to cover it. They will cover it. What are you guys going to do? And this tired, boring, lazy-ass narrative that the MMA media is afraid to cover other promotions because they're afraid of getting their credentials revoked is the biggest bunch of bullshit I have heard. This ain't 2007. Trust me. Take it from someone who was, affected by this, not because he covered other promotions. They were unhappy that, I was breaking news and it was a very deep and complicated relationship. But who have you heard from of the people that go on the road these days, the people that are actually going to all these events, right? You know, the usual suspects who you see at all the events. Have you heard anyone say, and I can tell you I haven't heard it publicly or privately, that, hey, I went to a Bellator event and then I went to a UFC event and I got shit for it. I went to a Jake Paul event and then I went to a UFC event and I got shit. It doesn't happen anymore. They don't care as much as they did 15 years ago when they were fighting for that respect. It's the wackest shit I ever heard. And by the way, the vast majority of the best MMA media members aren't even going to events on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis anymore. I can name a bunch of them that don't go anymore because the coverage has changed. The way we cover it changes. It has evolved. We don't rely on it as much. We sit here on this show 8-9 hours a week talking about this stuff. And they need to do a better job. That's just the facts. I mean, I'll tell you, like last week, we had Bellator Milan. I hardly even remembered that was happening. I didn't see any promotion for that, get the word out for that, promotional materials for that, great content for that, videos for that. The onus should be on them. The only reason why I had Fabian Edwards on, to be honest, is because they reached out to me. And I was like, yeah, of course, I'd love to have Fabian. But there was a lot going on. There was UFC. There was the Paul Anderson fight, all that stuff. They need to do a better job. They need to do a better job coming up with ideas, pitching. I'll tell you, PFL these days, doing a good job of creating content, fun stuff, trying to drive people to be aware that their events are happening. So just doing a conference call and just putting on an event isn't enough these days when there's so much going on. There's literally an event or two of medium size every weekend. So, laughable. I actually have no issues with Josh. I think the show that he does with Big John, who's an absolute legend of the game, and I have no issues with him whatsoever. He's a Hall of Famer. He will always be a Hall of Famer. He will always be one of the founding fathers of the sport. I think it serves a purpose, and I think it's great that more and more fighters are getting into the quote-unquote media side of things. But when they try to do what we do every single week or every single day, they're trying to do exactly what we're doing and have done for the past decade, but then at some point remove themselves and be like, oh, no, I have nothing to do with you, then it becomes a little silly. Because listening to Josh Thomson or any other ex-fighter or athlete tell me or the media how to cover the sport that we are covering is as insane as me telling them how to fight. I would never have the balls or audacity to say, no. Let me tell you something. Your technical breakdown of Izzy and Pereira, hey, Dan Hardy, it's off, man. It's off. I got to tell you, it's off. No, I would never say that shit because that's insane. I've never fought. All right? So you guys are new to this side of things, right? If you want to tell us that our technical breakdowns are wrong, do it all day. But to tell us how to cover MMA and to tell us that we're not covering the company that you're getting paid by, that you proudly, represent and wear their gear and all that, is disingenuous at best. And I would say that I would love to see more of, Josh and John in the booth as opposed to at the desk. I think that would be a better use of them. And I think there is a place for all of them. But you try to make these little clicky-click links, videos, clips, just to get us all riled up, when in essence we know that, you're just trying to gain promotion for your own show and get us to talk about your own show. It's tired, it's lazy, and you're using the wrong words. That's a big part of being in the media. Use the right words. Promotion, coverage, two different things. Now, cue someone clipping this and then, me getting into a back and forth and the quote tweets and all this stuff. Anyway, them's my thoughts. Silly, stupid. It ain't 2009. Get over it. And do a better job of promoting yourselves. You work for them. You promote them. Jay, hey, Ariel, thanks for all you do. What's one of the most recent moments in this sport that reminded you why you enjoy it so much? The week in, week out grind of MMA can sometimes make keeping up with the sport feel like a slog. What is something that happened recently that made you go, hell, this is why I fell in love with this stuff in the first place? I'll tell you, great question. And the first thing that came to mind when I was reading that was Leon Edwards. Moments like that, where, as I said in the aftermath, you can't take a 20-point shot in basketball. You can't throw a 20-point or a 21-point touchdown in the NFL. You can't do that. You can't do it in soccer. You can't do it in baseball. That's essentially what he did. It was one massive shot with 50 seconds left. And it changed his life, and it changed his sport, and it changed the division, and it changed the UFC. It changed the UK MMA scene, all that. So that's one moment. Nate and the way that all turned in his favor after it looked like he was about to get screwed was another moment. There have been a lot. The first London show in particular this year, which I think was the best show of the year, best crowd of the year, that was incredible. There's a lot that we love. But yes, there is a week in, week out grind. And that's why I feel so passionate when I talk about the Apex, because I feel like the Apex, does a great job of taking our love away from the sport and why we get into it. And I see some people saying like, oh, see, that's the difference between me and Ariel. I like it for the fights. I like it for the technique. I like it for the fighters. You are lying if you don't think, you're lying to yourself if you don't think that the glitz, the glamour, the feuds, the hype, all that stuff feeds into and helps grow your love for the sport. Otherwise, you'd be watching, 1 a.m. kickboxing on ESPN2. There's a reason why the UFC is the UFC, because we have an emotional investment in these fighters, because we know who they are, because we are attached to them, because we want to see if Izzy can beat Alex Pereira. We want to see if Dustin and Chandler can settle their feud. Like we care about these people. That's why we love it. And if we don't have any attachment to them, they're just a bunch of faceless fighters. So, yeah, I need that attachment. I need that feeling. I need that connection. It's very important. Michael, hi, Ariel. I feel like we're getting to the point where Jake Paul is getting too good at boxing for it really to be a surprise anymore when he beats an MMA fighter in the ring. My question for you is, how many current UFC fighters would you favor / would be betting favorites against Jake Paul in the ring right now? I personally think Izzy Pereira both would be, but otherwise, a lot of guys who have talked about possibly facing him would be clear underdogs, such as Nate, Connor, Paulo, Kamaru. Thanks. Well, I do think one thing that comes into play is Nate, Connor, and Kamaru a lot smaller than he is, right? I mean, that fight was 187. That's the smallest he's been. I think he told me that he could get down to 75. I don't know about that, but God bless if he can. Size is a factor for sure. Age is a factor for sure. Would you say that Izzy would be a betting favorite over Jake in a boxing match right now?
Yeah, I think so. Just with his kickboxing acumen.
Would you say Alex Pereira?
Oh yeah, I feel like Alex Pereira more than
Izzy
because he has that knockout power. I mean, if Alex Pereira catches Jake Paul with that left hook, I think it's lights out.
What about? Yeah, I mean, what's the proper weight class? Middleweight or light heavyweight? Well, his last fight was 87, so let's talk about middleweights. Would he be a favorite against Paulo Costa, in your opinion?
Oh man, that'd be interesting. See, now these guys you're talking about now, they still have youth on their side, where he's been fighting older fighters. And Anderson Silva did open as a favorite. I feel like opening line Paulo Costa would be. You
think so? I mean, Sean Strickland, Derek Brunson, Marvin Vittori. I feel like he'd be a favorite.
Darren Brunson, no way. He'd be a favorite over Derek
Cannonier. I feel like he'd be a favorite over all those guys.
Too.
Darren
Yeah, I think so.
Glover, Jan, Magomed. Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for that, which I guess is part of the reason why people want to see him fight a boxer. By the way, I may have asked you this on Monday, but is there a line for him versus Tommy, who seems to be the only boxer that people talk about him fighting?
He opened up when the original match was set as like a minus 225. I bet he would get steamed up to minus 300, minus 350 after his performance against Silva.
Yeah. The Pied Piper of Newark asks, hey, Ariel, you were by far the best dressed on the panel at Paul versus Silva. Thanks. So my question is a two-parter. One, where do you get your snazzy suits and ties? And two, who picks them out for you? P.S. My Jets are going to destroy your Bills this Sunday. Aren't the Jets in a tailspin? I mean, they just lost to the lowly, sad sack New England Patriots. Kidding me? This is going to be great. Tremendous deadline yesterday. Brandon Bean and the boys doing work We got Hines now. Had to say goodbye to Zach Moss. Tre'Davious White potentially back. Marlowe back. Joshy back. Well, he never left. Thank you for the compliment. Thank you to Ben Folks and Chad Dundas for the compliment as well. They said the same on their show, the Co-Main Event podcast. They're definitely not media, by the way. Those guys are not media at all. The suits, yes. I met a youngish man from Dallas named Zahid. Z-Spoke Menswear, I believe, is the name of his business. He's a tremendous tailor, and I met him like 3-4 years ago. And yeah, he's. I have a suit guy. Guys, could you imagine?
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I got a suit guy.
So Z-Spoke, like what?
Z.
Z. Yeah.
Z-Spoke. I've tagged him a couple times. Well, basically, it's like if I get a deal on it, I'll do like a big promotion. But if I'm paying, full price, it's like I'm paying full price. And I do pay. Initially, I got a couple on the house just to develop the relationship in exchange for some social media love. But now I pay because also small business I want to support as well. I'm really bad with colors, as you guys may have heard in the past. And so he'll send me a bunch of stuff and I'll tell him, what I like, what I don't like. Obviously, I like the plaids. I like the, this type of stuff. Not too crazy. So he'll send me stuff and have a few. And I'm a big fan of the double-breasted these days. I used to be a big fan of the three-piece. No longer like the double-breasted way more.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you like my suit, Frank?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Did you watch?
Yeah, I did.
You thought it was all right?
I mean, all right is a compliment.
Got a lot of compliments on it.
Where do you get the ties?
Same guy.
So does he make the ties, or
no? I think he sources them. He makes the suits, but then he'll include a tie and as part of the package, and also the hanky.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, multiple suits throughout the week, correct?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They were all great. Now,
I appreciate it.
Do you choose the pattern, or are you like whip me up something?
No. I'm particular about the style that I like, and like I said, I really like the double-breasted.
Double-breasted feels like
it's
feels
class.
Like a power play. Yeah.
Yeah, it's class.
Boss move.
I appreciate it. Not all of them are, but so he'll send me pictures. I wish he lived here, so I could see with my own eyes, because sometimes it's a little different. Picture, video, whatever, and then we'll go back and forth. But just to be clear, like I don't have like 30 of these. I have like, I don't know, 6, 7. It's just I don't wear them all the time. And there's a couple of new, like I wore a new one at the presser, the Rahman presser, that people seem to like, a blue one. So yeah, tough to travel with that many suits. By the way, they get very heavy, like in the suit bag.
Yeah, can you just ship them out?
I don't know. I've never even thought of that. When I worked at Fox, they used to keep the analyst suits at Fox and would ship them to the events. I was the only one that they didn't do that for. Man. DC would just show up to the event and he'd have a suit waiting for him. I would have to freaking lug this thing from, my home to the airport to the venue, like all that. They would show up not knowing what they're going to wear. I can't,
man.
And by the way, I can't give that much power to someone. There's no one that I trust, including my wife, to just pick out my clothes for me. Chael, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying this, Chael doesn't even pack his own bags. Chael's wife is so salt of the earth that she will pack his bags for him, everything, down to underwear and socks. Not only that, put snacks in there and a loving note for him.
Can't beat that.
He just is like, all right, time to go. And everything's ready to go.
Everything's ready. He doesn't think about it. Toiletries, suits, shirts. I'm like, hey, Chael, that's a great thing. He's like, yeah, my wife got it for me last week. I was like, wow, what a life. Wow. Sometimes Chael will send me a picture of him lying in bed with one of those like trays, and he's watching the news, and he's got like a full breakfast in front of him. One time he sent it to me early on when he would do this, and I was like, wow, what hotel are you at? He's like, no, this is my house. It's my wife.
Man.
Yeah. His wife is incredible.
I wait to pack until like the very last second, hoping it'll irritate my wife enough to just pack it for me.
Does it work?
Never.
No.
I'll keep trying.
But again, like I'm particular. I don't know. I don't want someone packing for me. Maybe I'm crazy. Lloyd, good day, Ariel. My question today relates to the Fighters Union agreement Jake Paul made with Anderson Silva. Do you actually think he is serious about making this? Look up the number of projects he's been associated with, cryptos, NFTs, that he just abandons as soon as he gets his money. It would be terrible to see it get off the ground, get fighters on board, then abandon them like I feel like he would inevitably would. Then you have a situation like the previous time fighters tried to unionize. Also, note, I'm in no way against the fighters union. I just don't think Jake Paul is the guy to be the figurehead. Would love to get your take. Shout out to the whole crew. Huge fan from Suffolk, England. Lloyd, shout out. Remains to be seen. My stance hasn't changed. Remember, I sat here last week saying he needs to prove it to us. And, me included now, like I was sort of like blindly believing it all. And that was before I knew about this bet. I didn't know that there was going to be a bet or that this would be part of the bet. And so, yeah, okay, this is a nice step, but it's not just about making the bet. It's not just about throwing that out there. It's about actually going forward with it. And, like I've said in the past, his business partner is Nikisa Badarian, who's the former CFO of the UFC. And I know that this is something that he's passionate about. And so let's see what happens. But yes, I do think that there's a lot of pressure on him. And one could argue, like, why do you even put this on? Like, he could just go out there and fight dudes and that would be it. Like, no one's asking him to do this. And you're right. There are a lot of fighters who don't like him, don't trust him, don't want to be on board with whatever he's trying to do. And so that's going to be a tough sell in its own right. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt and let's see. We spoke a bit, privately about our little back and forth on Twitter, and it's all good there. So, shout out to everyone who thought that I was going to be removed or in trouble or any other kind of bullshit that you guys threw out. We're all good. People have spats sometimes. It happens. But yeah, I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see, by the way, if Anderson goes through with it, if he really wants to be a part of something like this. It's a tough thing, man. I remember when we had the PFA, I think it was in 2016, and Jeff Boris, the former baseball agent for the likes of Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla and so many others, tried really hard, showed up to events, a bunch of events, and no one wanted to get on board. A lot of people told him they'd get on board, but they didn't actually get on board. So I'm really curious to see what happens here and if anyone gets on board. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy. And being Jake Paul doesn't make it easier because on the one hand, you're feuding with these guys, and on the other hand, you're trying to get them on board. Like, it's tough, because now you have people who think like, oh, you're disrespecting our legends. And so that doesn't really vibe, doesn't really mesh with trying to bring everyone together. I do think that there's a part of him in his heart that wants to make this happen, but maybe there's also a part that doesn't realize just how difficult this is going to be. So let's see. Ariel, greetings. Should Jon Jones set himself on fire to motivate Stipe to fight him? Lewis writes, lots of questions about Jon Jones, asking for updates, but this was my favorite. Honestly, I mean, now that the fight isn't happening for December, here's what I'll say. Now that the fight isn't happening clearly in December, I think that they're going to turn their attention to March and Ngannou. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this marks the end of Stipe's career. Stipe is going to go off into the night very quietly. Stipe was never going to make a big hullabaloo. Maybe it's a post or something like that, but Stipe, pretty quiet guy, pretty private guy, likes his life, is a firefighter. He was not going to make a big deal about the end of his fighting career. And I think once they didn't really come correct with an offer, and that's really what happened here. Like, it was like hey, you want to fight him? Here's the amount, take it or leave it. And he's like, and then they just moved on. So I think now they're going to try to make the fight against Ngannou in March. And if they do that, who's Stipe going to fight? Is he going to be motivated to fight way less, for less money than he was making as champion to fight a Cyril Gane or a Curtis Blades? I can't see it happening. So wouldn't shock me if we never see him again. Could he come back? Sure. Next week. Great. But right now, wouldn't shock me if we never see him again. Isaac, hey Ariel, third time, long time. With 2022 closing out and Jon not fighting in December, seemingly more realistic. Bummer, I'm heading to that December 10th card, he writes. What fight are you most anticipated to watch before the end of the year? Seems the crowd favorite is Izzy Alex, but me personally, I'm going with Rafion Stotts versus Danny Sabatello. Man, I almost forgot that that's still to come, December 3rd. Feels like ages ago that they were in here, but I am looking forward to that. Right now, if I had to pick one, what do you think it is, GC? What do you think my one fight is right now? Most looking forward to it.
For the rest of 2022?
Yeah. There is one that came to mind right away.
Sorry.
What's wrong with Frank over there?
I was going to say.
Frank, what are you doing? You're fighting with people? What's happening?
Yes.
What's happening? Is everything okay? Do you need me to come back there?
There was a file that I thought was missing.
I was going to say, I'm a little distracted back here.
I've never heard Frank speak like this before.
Quite literally hollering about a file name.
Frank.
That is inconsequential at this point to the show.
A rare peek behind the curtain.
I mean, screaming back here. You see what I deal with.
Frank, you okay? Do you need a minute?
I'll be all right.
Do you need to take a break, a breather? Go around the block, take a walk? Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot like that.
UFC, Bellator 1, can we narrow it down? Boxing?
It's a very easy one. It's Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler. I mean, what is hotter than that? I mean, I just can't. Those
Dustin
two guys.
Poirier's hot sauce? Is that hotter than
that is a good call. Yeah, that is a good call. Had some last night. I love that fight. God, I love that fight.
It's going to be fireworks. I can't wait. Madison Square Garden, too.
Oof. And just like the tension there between them. They don't like each other. They're two like super tough, strong guys. Confident. Resumes speak for themselves. Oh, what a
Title
fight.
Picture implications.
That's my favorite fight. I mean, obviously, Izzy Pereira is super interesting, and there's a bunch of interesting fights coming up, and Gordon and Pimblett and all that stuff is great, but oh my God.
I mean, sometimes fights can be letdowns. I feel like that's a guaranteed banger. Like guaranteed it's going to be
it's going to be great. And it's going to be one of those where we're like, I wish there were 2 more rounds, right?
Yeah,
what's the over in that fight?
I mean, oh man, they haven't said it yet, but I imagine the under is going to be the favorite.
You think so?
Yeah.
Wow, knockout.
That. For sure. I could definitely see
Those
that.
are tough guys.
I know, but the way Chandler goes about fights, like he just makes it so chaotic.
Got to be smart. Got to be smart against Dustin. I love that fight. Love Dustin. Love Mike. They're both great. They're both legends. Crazy that we haven't seen Dustin all year. Last fight was for the belt in December. And obviously there was, the Diaz stuff in the air. But if I had to pick one, that's it. What about you?
So I'm pretty hyped for Yuri Glover too, but I do have a worry there's going to be a letdown factor to it just because the first one was so good. But I'll go with Yuri Glover too.
It's not a bad one. Second for me would be Amanda Lemos and Marina Rodriguez.
Big title implications in the strawweight division, I'm telling you.
Newman. Hello, Ariel. Hello, Newman. First, I have to give a shout out to GC for the Halloween graphics on the intro to Monday's show. Amazing stuff. His costume was also incredible for as long as it lasted. Were you frustrated about that?
No, because we still got it on the air. And
yeah.
I got to say a few words, and then, the audio cut out. But, I don't know who's responsible for that.
Oh.
So I don't think he's paying attention.
Oh, okay, all right. That's great. That's great. You still talking about the file?
Yeah, I think he's elevating the file. He's shooting up the ladder
here. Jake Paul looked much improved on Saturday, and I would like to see him face an actual boxer next. So Tommy Fury in the UK would be my choice. I think he would destroy Nathan Diaz in a boxing match at this point. Sign me up for Nate versus Floyd. All right, you might get your wish. Speaking of the UK, there has been some talk of Edwards versus Usman 3 on March 18th in the UK, but Sean Brady mentioned in your interview on Monday that there may be a pay-per-view in Vegas on March 4th. Do you know if the UFC is planning 2 pay-per-views in March, and if so, could March 4th be Jones and Ngannou? They still haven't told the particulars involved, what they're planning. March, could be April. Everyone just chill out on it. And yes, there could be 2 in March. We saw 2 in March not that long ago, but people are throwing out dates, throwing out, all of this is still very much a work in progress from what I'm hearing. Jacob, there are rumors swirling that Colby versus Khamzat is going to be on March 4th in Vegas as co-main event. Any truth to this? And if that isn't the headliner in itself, what would the main event be? Thank you as always. The American March pay-per-view could very well be Ngannou Jones if they can figure out the Ngannou side of the equation. Again, very premature, things can change. Who the hell knows? And Colby Khamzat is a fight that they wanted. They wanted it to be on ABC this past summer. And if Khamzat is staying at 70, that's the fight to make, if you ask me. Does get interesting, though. What if Colby beats Khamzat and Usman beats Leon? What do you do then? Because then you have Colby and Usman as number 1 and 2 still, and I don't know if there's a huge demand for the third fight right now. Maybe I'm wrong. Matmo, dear Lord Ariel, you killed it on the Paul Silva broadcast over the weekend. Congrats on getting those big moments in the ring. You truly shined in there with the fighters, and no one could have done it better. Wow, thank you very much. Anywho, the great Arnold Allen moved to 10-0 in the UFC with his win over Calvin Kattar and undoubtedly deserves a crack at gold in his next fight. All right. I wanted to get your thoughts on the ending sequence of the fight. I feel like people aren't giving Arnold the credit he deserves because of Calvin's knee injury, but was it not Arnold's outstanding footwork that directly caused Calvin to miss his flying knee attempt, overextend himself, and land poorly on his right leg? Yes. I mean, again, I always bring this one up. It's Woodley Condit. It's hard to know like how much the opponent inflicted that pain, until we hear from Calvin, and was he dealing with something beforehand? Did it have, But to me, it's like a win is a win is a win. Obviously, some are a lot cleaner and decisive, more decisive than others, but I don't think Arnold should pay. I don't think he should be punished. I don't think his growth should be stunted as a result of this. I think this win, he continues, should be viewed no different than an impressive KO sub. I don't know about that. Give Arnold his due. I agree with that. Do you agree? And why do you think there's a need to downplay a victory like this? You could even hear it from Don Bisping on the broadcast. They didn't give Arnold his full props. Because it was, it was unceremonious. It was a little indecisive. I don't think this is an Arnold thing. I think it's just, the way the sport is. When a fight ends like that due to some kind of injury, inflicted by the opponent or not, there's always going to be that kind of reaction. Thanks for being the number 1 show in the game, and sorry for bursting your bubble about Mr. Rogers. No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Was this the one that wrote last week?
Oh, I see. So Lewis spared us, and in his full comment, he said, I apologize for not providing my sources last week about Mr. Rogers not being in the military, so I'll provide them below. Here's one about the Navy SEALs from the Navy SEALs. Another one here. Here's Movie Maker. I hope that settles the record. We could put these rumors to bed. No, I mean, I saw it from a pretty reputable source, so I'm sticking with that. I've never been led astray.
I think what he's saying are rumors.
Yeah. I mean, NavySeals.com. Great site. Never been to it. Okay, so how can I vouch for that? Come on. Personally, I think Matt should drop this because he's kind of looking silly each and every week. And also, why not give Mr. Rogers his props? He was a beast. Took out people.
Patriot.
He really used NavySeals.com.
Yeah. I don't even know if that's a real website.
I mean, yeah, you would think it'd be .gov or something.
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
proud of that at work. Yeah.
I'm on it right now. It doesn't look
NSFW. Yeah. Next, you're going to tell us he didn't have a tattoo sleeve on his left arm and didn't drink before the show.
Yeah. I saw an episode where he buried a fish in his backyard.
Yeah.
It's savage.
Slurring his words. Sam, hi Ariel. With ONE FC gaining popularity in the U.S., I'm wondering if you think it will become more of a contender for young American fighters and managers. Do you know if their starting contracts are similar to the 12 and 12 of the UFC? Also, question for Frank. Before I get to that question, it's a little less, and let's see the type of traction they have here if they come here next year with the 4 shows or whatever it is with Amazon. UFC is still UFC, my guys. So fighters grow up dreaming of UFC. Now, I would say a lot, to the ones who turn down big deals from other promotions just so they could say that they're a UFC fighter. That's silly, but and I don't even know how to gauge is one really gaining popularity in the US? They've had 2 or 3 Amazon shows. We don't really know the numbers to those, and you don't see a ton of promotion for them. So
it's all over Amazon.
Is it? Do you really see it all over Amazon?
I did.
Oh wow. Anyway,
a read for it on Thursday Night Football.
Come on.
Yeah, a few weeks ago. It was before the second one.
Why aren't you promoting one?
Yeah. Why aren't I? That's a good question. Al Michaels is reading about One championship?
Yes, I swear. That was my exact thought when I saw it. I was like, I can't. There's no chance Al Michaels knows who either of these fighters are.
Oh, it's the best. Like I love when Mike Breen has to read like UFC 280 coming up in Abu Dhabi, and obviously not a big MMA fan. But is he mentioning the names too?
Oh yeah. It
Wow.
was one championship Amazon too. It was tough names to pronounce too. It was the
Like Angela Lee.
Man. I'm blanking on who.
Al Michaels talking about John Lineker. Crazy. Anyway, question for Frank. What did you think of Hereditary? I find myself checking the ceiling most nights because of that movie. Cheers to you and the crew.
Yep.
What'd you think of it, Frank?
All right.
The
Look.
fuck? Yup? That's your answer? The guy's asked you a specific question and your answer is yup?
So I'm just going to... Look.
Is everything all right?
I was commuting home on Monday.
Yeah?
There were some people in costumes on the subway, and I just got like all icky, and I came home and I didn't want to watch a movie, so I didn't watch it.
Oh, so you didn't watch the movie?
I didn't watch it.
Is Hereditary a show or a movie?
It's a movie. It's been out for a while. Really like the director. He did Midsummer. I wanted to watch it, had plans, said it on the show, and then I didn't deliver.
Then you bailed. So what'd you do instead?
Yeah. What'd you do instead?
I went to bed and
Wow.
watched YouTube videos and read Reddit until 2 a.m.
Wow. What time did you go to bed at?
7:30.
What?
So you laid in bed for 6.5 hours on your phone?
No,
I was tired.
At lunch, it was 7.5 hours. It was, I think it was 7:30 to 2:30 a.m.
Wait, what?
Yeah, well, look, I just was decompressing.
Wait a second. You went to bed at 7:30?
And
Thereabouts,
then laid
yeah.
in bed, looking at his phone for the next, 7 hours?
What? Frank.
Which is scarier than
everything
Hereditary,
okay?
I think. Yeah, I think everything's fine.
He kept saying he was tired while he laid in bed and refused the option of sleep by looking at his phone.
It's like, it was nice and quiet.
Just so I'm clear, you didn't go to sleep at 7:30 a.m., right? You're saying 7:30 p.m. and then
I
you went
went
to bed.
home, had
Okay.
dinner, laid in bed at 7:30, then finally fell asleep at 2 a.m.
And what are you looking at?
So I read Reddit, and then I watch...
What's your favorite Reddit page?
Oh, no.
Are you not allowed to say?
r/popular, I guess.
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. I've actually never, I don't even know how to use Reddit. What is that? Like some sort of like Twitter feed thingy?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of weirdos on that.
Yeah, there definitely are. So it keeps you up.
Not trying to disparage anyone. A lot of homeless people on there or?
Yes, there are some homeless cats specifically. It's fun when you're like going through Popular and then there's a post about you.
Oh yeah, that's the best.
So just doing some basic research here. Hereditary has a runtime of 2 hours and 7 minutes. So you could have laid in bed, done Reddit, done YouTube for a couple hours, watched Hereditary, and then gotten back on Reddit and YouTube for another few hours. You could have watched Hereditary in bed.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
What platform is it on?
I would have just rented it on Amazon.
It looks like Paramount Plus has it too if you got a subscription.
Look, I'm still going to watch it. I just don't know when.
All right. Calm down. I've always wondered how come we don't have a Reddit page? How come you guys didn't start that for us since you're on it so much?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Frank said he was going to start it.
Yeah.
I did talk to some people about doing it.
And what happened?
He also said he was going to watch Hereditary.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Neither happened.
What's the next question?
Gabe, Shalom Ariel, do you think betting services should allow refunds if a fighter had an undisclosed injury heading into fight camp, especially with the recent TJ situation at UFC 280? A lot of people might have bet on him thinking it was a healthy TJ, only to find themselves screwed over by his poor judgment to remain in the fight. Thanks, Gabe. Feels like a slippery slope. How do you actually determine injured, not injured? What do you think, GC, our resident betting expert? How do you actually monitor something like this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty interesting question because a lot of the times in the NFL, they'll refund, like I've seen DraftKings do it numerous times, like refund player props if a player gets injured in the fight. Or in
Wow.
the game. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, like I wouldn't think it was that crazy. Like if it was a huge event like 280 and there was like a confirmed, like all he was just injured going into it, like I wouldn't be shocked to see DraftKings do something like that.
Oh.
I've seen them do it on numerous occasions in NFL, MLB, things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like a very difficult thing. I mean, to a degree, but who knows? Like he could have just said that. Like, how do you actually determine, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And also, speaking of the slippery slope, you couldn't not cash out the Aljamain tickets. So
Exactly.
I had an Aljamain ticket. If they were like, we're not cashing it because of TJ, I would have been pretty mad about that.
I agree. I just don't know how you would actually be able to monitor that and police it in the right way. Scott, good day, Ariel. Thank you for answering my question last week about CM Punk. For the last few weeks, I feared I would never get past Lewis. Lewis adds, it's never personal. Yeah, I can't imagine. It's like he's a top-notch goalkeeper. I mean, he's like Peter Cech in his prime. It's hard to get by him. But when you get by him, it must feel great. I'm back with another wrestling question. Cue the Can you give the people a present and past wrestling star that you think would benefit from having Heelwani as their manager? Wow. I just want to say that I've been a dedicated listener for 7 years and really appreciate your work. Thank you. Aside from your great interviewing skills, no one showcases the personality of these great athletes quite like you. Thank you, my friend Scott. Wow. Past and present. That is a really great question. Who is someone that just didn't have, I tell you what, and this might blow your minds. Can I just throw one out there? And I know a lot of the the regulars will find this to be a crazy. I could have and could help Ronda Rousey.
Mind blown.
Yep.
Can't beat that.
Can't beat that. Not great on the mic. Not believable. A little too stiff, if you will. Have me, the voice of the voiceless, the voice of MMA, the voice of combat sports, come out there and cut promos on her behalf. That's what I want to do. I don't want to cut promos on my behalf. I want to cut promos on other people's behalf. Night and day, easy job. Easy job. She's legit. She's a real fighter. She's a real badass. She snapped people's arms. You get caught on one of those things, you're done. That would have been a fun one. And I guess she's past and present to a degree, but she's more present. Past. Man, I got to tell you. I mean, like, early Hart Foundation, if you would have given me that job. They had Jimmy Hart. He's a legend. Who am I to say otherwise? But that would have been great. And yeah, I mean, I keep thinking of the guys who weren't great on the mic or didn't speak a lot back in the day, like an Undertaker, but he had Paul Bearer. And that was the most incredible tandem there was back in the day. I always really enjoyed I enjoyed the Twin Towers, Akeem and, was it Akeem and the Big Boss Man? They were fun. Was it Akeem and the Big Boss Man? Yeah, I think it was. I don't know. I'll just say Bret Hart because why not? That's my guy. Cosmo Kramer, hot tag. Oh boy. Can we get your thoughts on Kyrie Irving and his comment/social media post this past week? Of course, once someone calls him out on anything, he would get defensive and blame the media. Just wanted your take on him and why he thinks he can get away with these ridiculous comments. Oh boy. Well, where to begin? So recently, it has felt like there has been a rise in anti-Semitism in pop culture here in the U.S., of course, led by the likes of Kanye West. And when someone that influential says things like this, which I stayed away from because I legit feel like he is going through a lot of stuff, and ultimately, like at some point, you're like, all right, like what are you going to do? This guy, like you're going to battle this guy. It's not worth it. But then you realize that there's a lot of people that are influenced by celebrities, by people like him. And then you start to see this trickle-down effect where you're seeing, things at football games, and you're seeing things on highways, and you're seeing things at schools, and you're hearing of incidents here, and you're hearing of incidents there, and you're like, damn, staying silent isn't actually the right thing to do, especially since this is something that's so near and dear to my heart as a very proud Jewish man. And then it enters the sports world, and you see someone like Kyrie Irving, who I think the best way to describe Kyrie is a faux intellectual, someone who thinks he is so well-versed on so many complex things, when in reality, time and again, he does a great job of exposing the fact that he is not as smart as he thinks he is. Or maybe he looks for his answers in the wrong places. I mean, here in one breath, you have someone who says that, he agrees with things that, the nutty Alex Jones said, even though it was, in the 90s. And then he's also, posting things like this. So if you missed it, He posted a link to a movie that was on Amazon that is just like filled with anti-Semitic tropes, with themes, with lies, with all kinds of myths and nonsense. My good friend from ESPN, Pablo Torre, did a great show on this and posted a bunch of great stuff on this. And shout out to the Inside the NBA crew, the best studio team in the history of sports TV, for what they said yesterday, in particular Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal, because we would never be allowed to criticize on MMA programming, on UFC programming. Like, we would never be allowed to speak the way they speak. And they obviously have such great, equity and resumes, and they just have this leash that they've earned. And so it's refreshing, because you won't hear that on other networks, you won't hear that in other sports. They're the best, and there's a reason why they're the best. And look no further than yesterday as one of the main reasons why they're the best, because they tell it like it is. They don't sugarcoat things. They're not afraid of the league, or they're not afraid of being reprimanded or any type of repercussions from speaking the truth. And so what drives me nuts about this is you have a situation where he posts this link, and then you have a bunch of people who do this whole whataboutism thing where it's like, well, shouldn't you be mad at Amazon? Yeah, okay, we can have that conversation too. And we could be mad at other places that have other things there that, house other types of material that are offensive, that are disrespectful, whatever, anti-Semitic in this particular instance. But we're not talking about that right now. That's what people who are racist, bigots, anti-Semites, anti-X, Y, and Z. That's what they always like to do. They always like to change the conversation whenever they are presented with a counter-argument or a reason as to why they are in the wrong. And so this is what is happening now with Kyrie Irving, because he posts that, and then he sits there at the dais when a great reporter like Nick Friedel asks him, why are you promoting this? And then he starts playing this game where he's questioning the word promotion, not understanding that by posting this, you are endorsing it. You are saying that you like this, and then maybe even want other people to watch it, and are trying to tell them that the stuff in there is stuff that you believe in. Because I can assure you, I'm not posting a link to Mein Kampf. I can assure you, I'm not posting a link to a David Duke book. I can assure you, I'm not posting a link to anything that's anti, the LGBTQ community or the Asian community or the Black community. I'm not posting that stuff because I don't believe in it. Obviously, if you're posting it, you believe in it. You like it. You subscribe to some of these notions. And so to sit there and be like, I'm just, what's the big deal? I'm just posting this stuff, when you are pushed back. And then you have all his legion of followers and minions who are like, oh, why are you trying to dehumanize him? And I was like, no, man, you posted it. Did someone hack your account? Are you going with that sorry ass, tired excuse? No. You did it, and you left it up there for days, and the NBA did nothing, and the Brooklyn Nets did nothing, and it's just an embarrassing situation. And it goes back once again. And look, I don't come on the show to talk about this stuff, but I'm going to be asked about it. I am going to get heated about it. It goes back once again that every time something like this happens to the Jewish people, no one cares, because everyone thinks that the Jewish people are the ones who control the media, who are rich, who are the powerful ones, who have all the money in the world, when in reality, we are 0.2% of the world's population. What are you all so worried about? Why do you always keep talking about us? Why do you always keep coming after us? What are you all so uncomfortable with? And so no one feels like they have to say anything when people are grossly, denying the Holocaust. That's what's in there. Saying that, there's a myth that, that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. That's the type of stuff that is in this nonsense that he posted. And stuff that we've seen in the past. I remember with Deshaun Jackson and Steven Jackson backing that up. Remember when all that was going down and no one said anything about it. And that's why when it came to our sport, and Gina Carano, who obviously had a great relationship with, posts a meme comparing being a conservative in the United States to living in Nazi Germany, I felt a certain way about it. Again, I don't subscribe to cancel culture. I don't subscribe to any type of nonsense like that. I subscribe to accountability and knowing that there are repercussions for posting stupid shit. And so I came on my Instagram and talked about it and said why this would be offensive to a Jewish person, why this would make us feel a certain way. I never said that she should lose her job. I never said this, that, but you need to understand that doing that, comparing one of the worst acts in the history of mankind. And yes, I know other things are happening to other people, but we're talking about something specific right now. We're talking about something very specific and very hurtful. It will affect us. And it didn't happen that long ago, less than 100 years ago. And so what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. What happened? I'll tell you what happens. I bring it up. Dana White is asked about it, not asked about me, asked about it, calls me a douchebag, calls a Jew a douchebag for talking about a Jewish story, and no one says a thing. No one says a thing. I dare you, if anything else happened to another group of people and someone of that community spoke up and the head of that sport and an owner in that sport spoke about that person the way he spoke about me, dare you to see what happens. No one said shit. Everyone stayed quiet because we don't need the help. We don't need the backing. We don't need anyone to stick up for us. ESPN didn't say shit until a ton of journalists reached out to them and asked them, what do you think about this? And they still didn't say anything. Calling a Jew a douchebag for talking about why a meme about the Holocaust, comparing the Holocaust to conservatives in 2021 is a little insane because I don't see anyone pulling you out of your house. Again, now someone will see this and say, no, you're making it about yourself. No, I'm trying to explain to you why the Jewish people feel like they need to speak up now because this keeps happening. What was that game? Wasn't it a Georgia game on Saturday in Jacksonville where there was a disgusting thing on the stadium? Am I right about that, GC? You know what I'm talking?
Florida.
Yeah. What the fuck? We're living in America in 2022, and we're seeing people talking about Kanye's right, this about the Jews, that about the Jews. I mean, again, as I said on Twitter, and then I'll tweet about it. I'll finally tweet about it, and people will be like, "Oh, you're misrepresenting what he said. You're dehumanizing him." No, he posted a link to something that was incredibly anti-Semitic. Go look at what he posted. Go read about that book. Go read the book. Go watch the movie. You'll see, unless you believe in this shit, that the whole thing is fugazi. They're posting fake quotes, misspellings, all this stuff, but also all the shit that they're doing is wrong and false and offensive. And so if you don't agree with me on that, take a hike. I don't care. I don't want you in my life. All those people, like, I don't need you. I didn't ask you to follow. I didn't ask you to listen. I didn't ask you to watch. If you're watching this right now and you agree with that shit, turn it off. I could not care less. Could not give two shits because this topic is very, very sensitive to me and to a lot of people. To me, because my grandparents were kidnapped by the PLO in 1980 and put in jail for 8 days because they were Jewish. To me, because my friend's family and my loved ones' families were in the Holocaust, had family members who died in the Holocaust. I went to the camps in Auschwitz in Poland and saw it with my own eyes. I went to Jewish school. My kids go to Jewish school. I pray every morning. I don't talk. I put my tefillin on every morning if that means anything to you. Fuck you for telling us that we shouldn't feel a certain way about this. That's not on you. And shame on all those other people who don't feel like they need to say something too when they're very quick to talk about other things. If you're going to be that guy when, it affects others as well, because, I see a lot of Jewish people backing a lot of people, and then I hear a lot of silence whenever it's done and said about us. So that's why, it makes us feel a certain way. And I get it. People feel like, we don't need the help. We don't need the backing. We don't need this. This is disgusting shit. People going into synagogues and holding people hostage and shooting people and doing all this stuff. And don't give me this whataboutism. What about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? No, we're talking about specific things. We could play that game all day long. And so Kyrie is embarrassing himself. He's embarrassing the NBA. He's embarrassing the Brooklyn Nets. And this whole situation is a total mess. And for him not to take any kind of accountability and not to at least apologize for being uninformed, that's all people want. I think Julian Edelman always handles these situations with great class and in the perfect way. No one wants Kyrie to be canceled or punished or shipped out. No one's asking for that. We just want people to be informed. We just want people to be smart. We just want people not to spew this nonsense and hatred because there's no place for it. And so educate yourself. Learn that what you're doing and what you're saying is very harmful and could lead to other people who are less smart than you are thinking about these things and then maybe doing a crazy thing like going to a synagogue and trying to kill people or take them hostage. But he hasn't done that. And by the way, he's playing in a borough that is home to a lot of Jewish people and a lot of people who feel a certain way about this. And it's just very unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the NBA hasn't done anything about this. And I don't want to play the game like, what if this person would have posted that? No, I'm not going to play that game. We're talking about this specific thing. I'm not going to do the exact same thing that everyone does to us. But recognize that stuff. I initially, with the Kanye stuff, like all my friends were hitting me up like, are you going to say something? Are you going to do something? I'm like, no. What do I need to get into this? Why do I need to get into this whole thing? And then you start to see the trickle-down effect, and you start to see that there's a lot of influenced people out there. And then you start to realize that you do need to say something. And so, yeah, stop it with this shit. And there needs to be, there needs to be repercussions, and there needs to be an education process where, Brooklynettes, teach this guy, have him meet with someone. Have him meet with a historian. Have him meet with a rabbi. Have him meet with someone just to let him know, like, we're not asking you to be friends with us. We're not asking you to celebrate Hanukkah, but, do you realize what you're posting? And do you realize the influence that you have? So, there's some thoughts. Hi, Ariel, from Evan. Did you see Tyson Fury's recent interview with True Jordy, where he got visibly frustrated about being asked about the Derek Chisora fight and why it's happening? I did. I don't know if you have talked about it previously, but what are your thoughts on the matchup, considering Fury has beat him relatively easily the first 2 times? He also mentioned that Usyk is not a fighter in his generation, which I found bizarre, considering they are the top 2 heavyweights at the moment. Much love from County Kerry, Ireland. Here's some context from Lewis, who's the best. True Jordy asked Tyson Fury. I did see it, but I'll read the context because I appreciate him adding it. True Jordy asked Tyson Fury, is it a mismatch? Charging pay-per-view for a third fight when it's 2-0. Select footnotes below. It got colorful. What I'm saying, this is what True Jordy said. What I'm saying is, with Chisora's record right now, I don't think he should be getting a world title fight. I think there's a potential in boxing for people to get badly hurt when they're mismatched. And I think that this is a mismatch. Fury responds, I don't. I think they're heavyweight fights and anything can happen. Don't write Chisora off because you're only 1 punch away from victory. True Jordy closes with, appreciate you and Derek are legends of British boxing. All respect in that sense, and I wish you the best of luck. Cheers, mate. Fury says, I think you're a tosser, you little tosspot. And I won't be doing any more interviews with you, you little tosspot. Bearded, bald-headed tosser. Kiss my expletives, you little expletive. You're a expletive. Now, I did see it, and it did get contentious, and I like True Jordy a lot. I will admit, like, I don't consume all of his content just because there's just a lot out there of everything. And, I try to not always consume combat. But I think he does a great job and has a great fan base. And I have a lot of respect for what he's built. And it was a very contentious back and forth exchange. Initially, I actually thought that they were friends because he was laughing, Jordy was laughing, and Fury was kind of laughing, and then he couldn't close the Zoom, and it got funny there. But then it seemed clear that, they aren't friends. And I give him a lot of credit because it's easy to say, ask the tough questions, press someone, this and that. But if that means, you're potentially harming the relationship or harming any chances or opportunities to speak to that person, like there's a lot at stake. And so it takes some balls, it takes some chutzpah. My style as an interviewer is different based on the circumstance. Sometimes you press, sometimes you ask, somebody this and that. I don't feel like he was disrespectful. I don't feel like he was, crossing any line. And for the most part, if maybe I wouldn't have gone about it the exact same way, I would say I agree with his sentiment. No one wants to see this fight. It's very, very rare that you see a third fight where one guy is 2-0. And when you add to the fact that there were 2 way more interesting fights on the table for Tyson Fury, 1, the Usyk fight, 2, the Joshua fight, and then we get a third fight of a, trilogy that no one was asking for. Yeah, it's a tough sell. It's a very tough sell. And, the last few months I don't think have been great for Tyson Fury. First of all, the travel ban stuff. Second of all, I'm retired, I'm not retired, I'm retired, I'm not retired. And then this, not a great stretch. I'm curious to see, look, will it sell a lot of tickets? Is he a huge megastar in the UK? Yes. But I think worldwide and for what people want to see him involved in, it's not the best. It's not the best. So very, interesting clip, very entertaining interview, very interesting interview, very captivating interview. And I give True Geordie a lot of credit. And I don't really have any hate towards him in that regard. Like I don't really have anything negative to say. It was great stuff. It was great stuff. And he was challenging him, and I'll say this, unfortunate that it had to end that way. You'd love to live in a world where you could challenge someone and be like, all right, man, listen, maybe Derek will prove me wrong and we go about our separate ways. And then he comes back on, he says, hey, told you so. He was tougher than you expected, whatever. It sucks that it has to end that way. And it's like, hey, I'm not going to talk to you ever again. But, Tyson's free to feel however he wants to. And that's the world we live in. But if you haven't seen it, really interesting stuff. And huge props to True Geordie. Have I gone too far? Okay. Hello, Ariel. From Jimmy G. Given your comments on Monday's show about the cesspool that is Twitter and the recent takeover by Elon Musk, who is promoting more quote-unquote free speech, does that make you reconsider your involvement in that platform? It seems like Twitter is your preferred social media platform, but at a certain point, is there direction enough to make you leave? From Lewis, there's also a proposed $8 monthly fee for remaining verified on Twitter. I'll tell you this much. I will never pay to be verified. I think that the reason why you want verification is to try to weed out the trolls and weed out the fakes and all that stuff. So it's weird to me. It seems like they're banking on the fact that people who are verified are so shallow and insecure that they're going to pay to have this little badge for whatever reason, I don't know. And yes, I still do feel like Twitter has gotten a lot more toxic, a lot worse, a lot of fake, phony people on there. Most of the hate that you get are from cowards who would never say anything that they say to you on there to your face. It's gotten a lot more unpleasant. And I obviously use it, but I try to read the comments way less. I try to engage way less. And only because you start to fall in these traps, rabbit holes that you just don't want to. And I would not be sad. Twitter has been great for me. Twitter has been a great tool. I've met a lot of great people. I've grown my, shows, brand, whatever on there. So I don't regret, I don't want to turn my back on it. But if he did this $8 thing and everyone left, I wouldn't cry for a second. That's why I say, burn the MFer to the ground, let the freaking thing swallow up, and I'll see you in MySpace and Friendster hell. At this point, I feel like I got enough out of it and I'm out. Now, if you love it, if you like that toxicity, that negativity, that BS, and there's still great things you can find there, God bless you. But I hope Elon goes in there and ruins it for everyone. And then I could just be like, this has been fun. I'll see you when I see you.
What a shout out to Friendster, man. Good job.
Friendster, shout out. Caleb says, hi, Ariel. Greetings from Texas. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on Aljamain Sterling saying he wants to take a break and not fight until mid-next year. His comments seem strange to me, especially considering how active other champions are when healthy, and they don't seem to be doing him any favors popularity-wise, which is an area he struggles in already. It seems unnecessary to hold up a division as stacked in full. Honestly, I mean, first of all, saying that could be negotiation, could be posturing, and there are fighters who have taken some time off, champions. It's not that big a deal. I wouldn't get too worked up over it, to be honest. Let's see what he actually does. Let's see how it actually plays out, but I wouldn't get too worked up over it. Grant Young. Hi, Ariel. What are your thoughts on ringside judges watching fights via monitors/screens instead of live? Or at least having access to both. They have such a limited vantage point from where they're sitting and surely miss exchanges that might affect how they score the fight. I know the commentators are often looking at monitors rather than the live action in front of them. So why can't the judges? Yeah, I think you can make a case that watching via the monitor would give you at times a better vantage point. But I do like the fact that they're watching with their own eyes. They are deciding. Because then you could say, oh, the director showed this angle and the cameraman shot it like this. And this is your eyes. And that's why there's 3 different vantage points. Now, could you make the case for more judges, maybe 4 around the 8 sides, something like that? 4 would not make any sense because you don't want them to be an even number. But 5, whatever the case is, I get it. This has been discussed. It's been discussed putting them in the back. It's been discussed giving them the replay and all this stuff, the monitor. It will always be debated. It would always be somewhat controversial, somewhat polarizing. I like that they're looking through their own eyes and there's no one feeding them what to see. Brian says, yeah, right, Ariel? Hullafo, Scotland. Respect. I would like to put your pound-for-pound rankings formula to the ultimate test. By your logic, would you have ranked Matt Serra higher than George St. Pierre in the pound-for-pound rankings after his win at UFC 69? Yes. Definitively, yes. And would you have ranked Matt Hamill higher than Jon Jones in the pound-for-pound rankings after his win at the Tough 10 finale? No, because that was a DQ, and we all know what was going down there. I want to know if your formula holds up in these scenarios. So, yes, Serra at the time would be above GSP unequivocally. He won the fight. We know what happens. The whole thing is fictitious. The whole thing is a debate. The whole thing is a what if. But in this regard, we know what happens between these two guys. Of course, Serra would be higher than George St. Pierre. Hamill, Jones, completely different. Jones dominated that fight. And he got DQ'd via technicality, so completely different. So no, I wouldn't put Hamill higher than Jon Jones at light heavyweight or pound for pound. Todd in Dallas. Hi, Ariel. Can you please clarify something that is critically important to the future of MMA and combat sports? Are the office for the night pictures cool or uncool? Wow, that is such a great question, Todd. Well, one time I mentioned... So the reason I do it sort of in jest is because someone asked me, I think I was on McAfee's show back when McAfee would have me on, that there's really no benefit anymore, at least for me, my POV, to go to these events other than to take a picture of the octagon, of the cage, from press row, from our seat, and tweet out or post on Instagram, office for the night. I don't really see, again, I think you can actually get a better vantage point from home, listening to the commentary, listening to the corners, listening to all that, watching from, all their great angles. And then everything else is made available to you. Now, there are other reasons to go, and there are definitely reasons that, people have, and I respect that. But the joke was, other than to post this picture and get, some retweets and likes and say, hey, here's my office for the night, which you always see media guys do, not only in MMA, but NFL, you see from the press box, office for the night. Oh, World Series, let me take a picture of the field, office for the night, because it's obviously a pretty damn cool office for the night. There's no other benefit. And so now I just kind of do it in jest. And, I'm kidding, obviously, when I'm referring to that. But, I'm no bully. If that makes you feel good, if you're proud of that, if you're happy to be there, you do you. But it was sort of that. And maybe I will stop doing it now that you mentioned it. So the question is, are they cool or uncool? Well, I guess if you're doing it seriously, I would view it as somewhat uncool. But look, if you're proud and excited to be there, God bless. If that makes you happy, God bless. You're not hurting anyone. God bless. It's just me being an ass, honestly. And you know what? Now that Todd mentions it, I'm not going to do it anymore. How about that? Or if I do it, it's going to be 100% serious. Okay?
What?
I don't want to be that guy. No one likes that guy. I don't want to be that guy. So thanks, Todd. Thank you for allowing me to see the light, Todd. Even the great me messes up, and now I've seen I've seen the error in my ways. Finally, Aaron Pete. Ariel, you are incredible at booking guests. Wow, thank you so much. Do you have any advice for those initial invites for individuals you don't have rapport with? Part of me wants to dive into how amazing they are and what questions I'd have, but I also don't want to overwhelm them with a big, long email. Great work hosting the face-to-face. You're going in the history books as an all-time great interviewer. Thank you, Aaron Pete. Well, I appreciate that very much, Aaron. That's very, very nice of you. It depends, right? If I have a relationship, it's a text, it's a lot easier. But, doing the stuff on my YouTube and reaching out to people that I don't know, a lot of these people have no idea who I am. And so it actually reminds me of when I started and I would send out 20 or so messages via MySpace. And I would be writing to George St.Pierre and Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz and all these people who had Rashad Evans, who had no idea who I was at the time. And you have to try to, convince them to come on. So my advice would be to be very respectful, to be short, concise, try to show an example or two of some of your work, whether, via a link or something like that. If you want someone to be on your YouTube show or whatever, here's, my page. Here, try to give them as much information as possible and evidence as possible so that they click and look and be like, oh, this guy's legit. He's got this many people watching or this many people following, or he's interviewing these types of people. Quick, respectful, professional, not too pushy, short, right? A short email, but also a short interview. That's one of the most important things to get people to come back. You get them on for the first time, you keep it to 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is, or you ask them beforehand, hey, do you have a hard out? I want to respect that. So that the next time you ask them, they'll be willing to come on and they don't think like, oh gosh, this is going to be an hour out of my day or 2 hours or something like crazy like that. So you have to be very respectful of their time and, be persistent, but don't be annoying. If someone says no, leave it be. If someone doesn't answer, wait a bit. Don't keep hounding them. Don't keep flooding them with emails. And then you'll build up a rapport. You'll build up a trust. And then you just keep building on that. You keep building on that. You keep building on that. And then you'll get them in the good times, the bad times. One big thing, as time goes on, it's important to not just reach out to people when you need something. So it's important to actually treat them like human beings and not just bother them all the time. Obviously, you can't check in on everyone and have a relationship with everyone like that, but you try. You try to be respectful. You try to be mindful. You try to be very thankful. After every show, I text every single person that came on and thank them. And try to be as appreciative as possible and try to, make it worth their while. Be prepared, ask good questions, ask thought-provoking questions, ask somewhat challenging questions. Make it worth their while so that they don't feel like this was a complete waste of time and either no one's going to watch it or they hate it or don't want to be a part of it, are embarrassed or regret being a part of anything like that. So it's really just like being a normal person and being a mensch. The best way to describe it is be a mensch. Be a mensch. Before, during, after, and you'll have plenty of people who want to talk to you. All right. That's that. It's been good. What do you think, Frank?
You did a great job.
I appreciate that. That's very nice of you. It's been a good week, and I think next week is going to be a really fun week because the UFC is in town, and anytime the UFC is in town, we usually have fun times. So I'm looking forward to that. For now, though, it is time to say goodbye, Frank.